Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Simply Done Concierge. One of the things we can't make more of, folks, is time, but we can help you be in two places at once. Folks at Simply Done Concierge can help you with meal prep, loading and unloading, packing and unpacking, pet sitting, pet walking, running errands, anything like that. So if you find yourself short of time, go to simplydoneconcierge.com. Tell them what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning. Each week on Triangle BNI, we bring you a local small business success story. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle at Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill includes 32 chapters and about 560 members each week getting together to help each other grow our business. And this week, we are going back down to the beach for our friends in coastal BNI, which is Wilmington, Fayetteville, and Wilmington, everything east of that. And our local small business success story is Kevin Blanchard. Kevin is the branch manager with Labor Finder Staffing Services. He is in the Wilmington Connect chapter. They meet every Thursday morning at 8:45 at the Wrightsville Beach Brewery in Wilmington. Kevin, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Mike. I'm doing just fine, thank you.
My pleasure. Life at the beach is good, about 78 degrees, a hint of a breeze.
Uh, Life at the beach is always good. Even when it's not good, it's good.
Well, this is the first time in a long time I've coming into the studio without a jacket on, so at least it's warming up here as well. Kevin, labor finders, we hear all kinds of things about the job market, what jobs are open, who's looking, who's not. What are you finding out these days from folks? Let's start with the people looking to hire. What are they looking for, and what's the market like for them?
It varies by business, right? What they're looking for, and every business owner has their own needs and desires when it comes to employees, right? I mean, everyone always wants a top-notch employee who's going to show up on time and work hard. But what a lot of business owners unfortunately are finding right now is that employees have kind of taken control of the market, and employees want a lot more financially, and to do a lot less than what has ever been expected before. um, and obviously that's not sustainable. Yeah, there's so many job opportunities out there right now. I think nationwide there's close to 10 million jobs, yet there's only 5 million people seeking employment. Um, so brick and mortar businesses are really struggling to find that hardworking, qualified individual. I think a lot of that has to do with the ability for people to start working remotely. A lot of remote opportunities presenting themselves, whether it's working for Google or working for Facebook or working, doing whatever it is. The ability to work from home has become such a desirable thing for the employee. It's hurting small businesses who are still brick and mortar, service industry type places. If you've gone to a restaurant at any point in the last 3.5 years, the quality of service you've received has really kind of fallen off. And those servers, God bless them, they're doing the best they can to keep service top notch, but it's slower. Your kitchen staff is not nearly as experienced as it used to be. The serving staff is not experienced as it used to be. And it's really created quite a challenge across the board for any brick and mortar business to find a good quality employee.
When COVID started, or let's say the month before COVID started, I imagine there were very few remote jobs anybody was looking to fill. And then
Yeah,
COVID
so
came along and that changed everything, didn't it?
it absolutely did. So don't quote me exactly on these numbers, but I'll give them to you. So I had read an article probably about a year ago, that came out via Bloomberg, and it was talking about the unemployment rates, um, or the our unemployment numbers nationwide, different cities, different markets, and what they look like. So Wilmington, since that's where I am, of course, is what piqued my interest. And Wilmington, pre-COVID, had a 3% unemployment rate. Uh, and it was, something like 80% people really looking to go back into a brick and mortar setting. It wasn't a ton of remote stuff that people were seeking. Post COVID, um, 54% of all unemployed people that were living in Wilmington were only looking to return to work remotely. 3% pre COVID or whatever that was, all the way up to 54%. I mean, now Wilmington is becoming a very tech town. So those opportunities do exist. But again, there's only so many opportunities to go around. Um, so it's really interesting that just to see the shift in how people are doing business nowadays. Um, but I found it really astonishing. Wilmington was the number one city in the nation of the amount of unemployed people seeking to return back to work that were only seeking to return remotely.
And that makes a lot of sense because I've read stories that a number of people from the Northeast who work remotely just sold their house and moved to Florida, where there's no
Oh,
state income tax. The weather's good. And if your company says, hey, live where you need to, stuff like that kind of makes sense.
oh, absolutely. I mean, the population in Wilmington itself, just since COVID, um, has gone up exponentially. And Wilmington's been growing even pre-COVID. This is a really desirable place for people to live. People want to come, and you kind of get the best of both worlds. We've got a great little downtown district. We're close to Wrightsville Beach or Carolina Beach. So there's a lot going on for a city that still feels like a small town in a lot of ways. Um, I came here in 2014, and the population of Wilmington was about 90,000, and today it's 155,000 for the city.
Wow.
So, and it continues to just grow. There's a lot of apartment complexes being built everywhere, residential communities popping up. So it's a continuously growing market, which is exciting for some. Um, for a Wilmington native, if they have hair left, they're pulling it out, um, because along with all that, you have to have the infrastructure to go along with it, right? So there's going to be a lot of road construction and things like that that are going to happen over the next several years to support the influx of people coming to the town.
When job seekers are looking for something in the Wilmington area, I think generally people will go to they'll go to LinkedIn or all those places. They'll go to the company website to see what jobs they have listed. How many people find you, and is it industry not specific, but certain industries more than others find good work through you?
So I'll answer the first part by saying not enough people come and find me. All right, we'll start there.
Fair enough.
Um, I always want anyone with any industry to come in, because that is my job, is to help them find meaningful employment, regardless of industry. If it's not something that I would ever step foot in, I've made enough connections in this town since I've been here to direct them to someone who can. Um, with that being said, yeah, we have been short employees continuously for 3.5 years, right? Since COVID really happened. There's always plenty of opportunity. Um, on the industry side, it's all in the name, right? So we can touch any industry. I love staffing salespeople and administrative assistants and things like that, on that white collar piece. But Labor Finders doesn't scream, find me someone with QuickBooks experience. Labor Finders screams, find me someone who can swing a hammer, use a shovel, run a piece of equipment. So in this market in particular, I'm super heavy blue collar. I do a lot of construction. Um, we do a lot in the commercial construction space down here. We do a lot in the road construction space. Uh, I have been working and am slowly branching out into those other industries, because it's necessary, right? We can't, in a market that's forever changing, you can't stay stagnant or you're going to get left behind. So I'm working to diversify my business more and get into more of that white collar stuff and make it more known that we are able to staff in those other industries.
What industries do you enjoy working with and finding workers? And I guess some of that might be with just the amount of luck and success you've had with it. What kind of industries just kind of pique your interest?
I mean, look, construction's a breeze, right? It is. It's there. There's a ton of it going on. Um, Margins are great, so I'll never complain about them. But it's really not so much, Mike. It's not about the industry that I love servicing more than another one. It's about the people. It's about the people who are down and out on their luck at a particular point in time in their life that, they're looking for ways to fill in gaps between employment opportunities. If they've been recently laid off, and they're looking for that next job, we might just be a pit stop on the way to that next career. They might be coming to us to seek out that next career. Um, at the end of the day, it's really about helping people and changing lives. I don't really care what industry it's in. I don't care what experience they have. My goal, our goal here every day, is to positively impact someone's life. And if that means it's in construction, great. If that means it's in the hospitality industry, great. If it means that I'm trying to find a paralegal, a position with a local attorney here, great. I don't really care about the industry. I care about the people who are seeking employment, and looking to better themselves, and are just needing that next opportunity.
I think one of the best stories I've heard you tell, and this goes back probably what have we known each other? 6, 7 months, 8 months, maybe. I forget how long it is, but it was early on when I was visiting your chapter and you were telling a story that you frequently take food to homeless folks and meet them and give them your business card and just hoping that you can help them. And I think the tail end of that story was that you met a guy one day and he ended up being, I think, a supervisor in
Yeah.
a
So,
yeah.
yeah, that was so one thing I encourage. Look, there's so much value into being in BNI, right? I mean, I can get referrals for business for different businesses that need help all the time, and most members of BNI probably know a business who's struggling to find employees right now. But BNI has another value for me, and that's the ability for people to refer employees my way. And so one thing that I do in our chapters, I keep out recruiting cards, uh, and I hand them out to the members. Right, you go into any major city in this country, and you're going to find that people are on the side of the road panhandling and whatnot. And so, um, a shout out to Jen McLean with Jam Organizing, who's been in and out of BNI chapters for years. She passed a recruiting card out to a gentleman, uh, who was panhandling over on South College Road, and he wound up being a skilled carpenter. He
Wow.
went through a divorce, lost everything in that divorce. It led him to struggle severely with alcoholism and led him to homelessness. And in order to survive, he sold his vehicles, sold his tools, sold everything he had, um, just to try and make it, and got himself in such a dark place that he really didn't know where to turn or what to do. Um, and so she passed out a recruiting card, and that's how I found that particular gentleman. Um, but yes, I have found plenty of people who are struggling with homelessness, and that's something that, serving our community, serving in general, is something that's really near and dear to my heart. It's near and dear to my wife's heart. And so we do like to try and get involved in the community, typically preparing at least one meal a week in our home, and then dispersing it. Everyone, there's a number of great organizations in town, homeless shelters that provide meals and things like that. But sometimes you just got to meet people where they're at, because they're not going to go seek out that assistance, whether they're struggling with if they're homeless and they're struggling with addiction issues, or maybe they're just embarrassed and feeling ashamed. And I love taking the opportunity to sit out and drive around this town and find people and meet them where they're at, meet them in that dark space, and provide them with something uh, like a warm meal, and provide them with a friend to talk to. Right? It's just about kindness at the end of the day. It's about being kind and meeting people where they are and trying to relate to them, and then seeing how we can help them.
I would imagine a lot of people probably do wanna work, but in those when they are in that spot in their life, they just may not know how to start the process
Mhm.
of meeting somebody to get hired, new clothes or just clothes, place to shower, place to stay, stuff like that.
Yeah. No, it is tough, and going around the community. So I started serving these meals back in COVID. That's when we started doing it. So we've been doing it nearly every week for about 3.5 years. We've been going out and doing this. And so I've had a ton of conversations with different members uh, of the community who struggle with homelessness. And one of the most common things that I find as a response is that homelessness in itself has become an addiction, right? It's they that lifestyle of not having any responsibility or not having it, to answer to anyone. And it was an interesting perspective to hear, because it's not anything I ever expected to hear in amongst my conversations, but I've heard it more than once that living as a homeless person is its own form of addiction now. Um, and I recently went to we had a homelessness forum here in town like a week ago, that was hosted by um, a wonderful woman named Laura, who's with Vigilant Hope here in Wilmington, and she had a whole panel of people, and it was really to bring awareness to people in the community of the different areas that people are struggling with. And one thing that they did was they had talked to some people, homeless people in the community, and they asked them, "Hey, what's one thing you want people to know?" And they wrote those things down, and they printed them off, and they posted those quotes from the homeless community on the board. And some of them, they were so inspiring. People are really down and out, but they're still positive. They have faith in God or whatever the case may be, and they're super positive. But there are other ones where, one gentleman said that he lost his dignity 10 years ago. And it's those kind of things, or someone else saying that they could wake up tomorrow and know that tomorrow could actually be worse than today, and they don't have anybody to talk to about it, anyone to support them, right? And just how broken they were. It was as involved as I already am in the community. It was very, very eye opening to kind of even hear those additional things. And I'd encourage anyone, honestly. World is a weird place right now, uh, and we all just need to love each other a little bit more. But one of the best things anyone can do, separate from work, it happens to benefit me work wise, because I build relationships with people who are struggling on a daily basis, and then I have an opportunity to make their life better by giving them a job, um, which in turn is beneficial for my business and hopefully beneficial for a client that I'm serving as well. Right. So everyone wins in the end. Um, but get plugged in your communities, get involved with different nonprofit organizations and find out how you can serve and help your community, and you'd be amazed what, you know, givers gain, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's more than just business, it's life, right?
Yep. And I know you are not a native to the Wilmington area. I think you are
No.
one of the many from north of the border, shall we say, Kevin,
Yeah,
that
no,
made their way down here. What got you down here?
that's a interesting story. So born and raised in New York City, grew up in Queens, uh, and my father was a construction worker for what is now Verizon. You know, most people don't know, but up north, Verizon is not just cell phones; it's landlines. But he started back when it was New York Telephone, and then 9X, and then Bell Atlantic, and so on and so forth. But he hated living in the city, and so he had put a transfer in with a phone company, and we moved up to the Catskill Mountains. Uh, so I went from the center of everything to the middle of absolutely nowhere. A little town, a little hamlet called Oak Hill in the town of Durham in Greene County. It's about only about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour south of Albany, New York. Super, super Irish community. Uh, has a great Irish festival there every Memorial Day weekend. So if you need something to do on a Memorial Day weekend, shoot up to East Durham, New York, and go to the Irish festival. It's a great time. There is nothing to do in that town, um, but go to pubs, which is fine if you're into that sort of thing, and take in some beautiful mountain scenery. But uh, I kind of always craved being in the city after leaving there. And so after I graduated high school, I wound up in Albany, New York for a bit, and was kind of miserable. But I had met a young lady while I was in high school, actually through a friend that we had taken interest in each other for a while, but never really sought it through. And then we tried dating long distance. And I said, at the time I was almost 21. I said, you know what? This place stinks. I need a change. And I packed my stuff and I moved to Concord, North Carolina back in 2006. Um, and continued my relationship with that person for a while. Didn't work out in the long run. Uh, God had a different plan for me. So I left Concord in 2006 and wound up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Kind of doing a fresh start. I kind of left everything behind in Concord other than the furniture out of my man room and my dog, and took a job as a assistant manager with this company called Labor Finders, and interviewed, and honestly, I'd never worked a desk job in my life. I've always been in sales, um, but needed a job to pay the bills. Found the cheapest apartment in the hood in Winston-Salem for me and the dog, and accepted the position, and eventually was given an opportunity to do sales in a full-time capacity. And I only stayed in that role for about 4.5, 5 months. Uh, and they said, "Hey, do you want to move to the beach,
Yeah.
run the show?" And that was a pretty easy answer. So, and then I came to Wilmington in 2014. So that's kind of my trek from the north to the south to a little bit back north and then southeast,
All
right? And
right. Well, I want to go back to your
around.
days in the Charlotte area. I believe it's
Yeah.
Charlotte, where
Yep.
you were an MC and a DJ.
Yeah. So
So
that was,
hang on a sec. I need to know your DJ name first.
so I wasn't that kind of DJ, right? I wasn't on air. All right. So we'll rewind again here back to the previous relationship here. We did get married, and we hired a DJ, and uh, guy's name was Vito. So naturally, as someone from New York, a guy named Vito's got to do your wedding, right? I mean, it just makes sense. And but he saw how much fun I had and told me to give him a call And so I did, and he offered me the opportunity to come DJ for him, because he thought, yeah, he clearly see I knew how to have a good time. So he hired me on to be a DJ for him. And at the time, I was in the middle of attending the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, which has a campus in Charlotte. So I was learning to do a lot of radio and television production stuff, on air, behind the scenes. And so while I was in school uh, and working full time, doing school, and then on the weekends, I was DJing and emceeing weddings for him, and I had a blast. Um, and I did weddings and bar and bat mitzvahs. That's what I did. Um,
So were
I
you weren't DJ Kevin, were you?
No, I wasn't DJ Kevin, or I mean, if I had a DJ name, my roommates back in Albany when I was much younger and with a lot less facial hair used to tell me I looked like Doogie Howser, so they used to call me Doogie Fresh. So I would have probably been DJ Doogie Fresh, right? That might have been where I went with it. But
Alright, so everybody
uh,
young listening to this show today, you need to Google Doogie Howser, and then you'll get it.
yeah, they only know him from modern television, right?
Exactly, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, DJing was a blast. I absolutely loved it. And I actually, even after I moved to Wilmington, because he was based out of Charlotte, um, the business is no, he's retired now. I think he has like a small wedding shop because it was a one-stop shop. You could get your wedding dresses, your gowns,
Wow.
your DJ, your photography, your videography. I mean, you literally could do your whole wedding by going to one vendor, which was really
Yeah.
kind of convenient. And it was good quality. That was the biggest thing. It was good quality. It wasn't, a fly by night. These dresses came off of, the back of a truck that
Yeah.
came down from Chinatown or anything like that, right? Like it was legitimate stuff. He had good stuff. Um, I absolutely loved it. And I got paid cash under the
There
table.
you go.
So hey, there was a win all the way around.
Alright,
Nothing like
so
getting paid $50 an hour to go party and have a good time.
there you go. So
So
give me the one give me something you saw one day at a wedding that you couldn't believe happened, either good or bad. Because we all love stories. There's always somebody. Usually, it's the best man who thinks. And here's a note to all the people who are going to be a best man in the future. Keep. You're not as funny as you think you are. Don't talk too long, and do not bring up former dates of the groom. Just don't do that. But most best man, we think we're way funnier than we are, and it generally doesn't go over. But I got to believe you've seen an awkward moment or two at a wedding.
yeah, I mean, there's been the standard, we I did a wedding one time out in what's it called? Tiga K, which I believe is in South Carolina. Because I travel to a variety of different places. I went as far south as Atlanta to do some weddings, and as far north as on base up in Norfolk. Um, and they had this bright idea that they were going to make the bride walk down this metal staircase. It's outside, nice little spiraling staircase. Um, and then as she came down the spiraling staircase, she would walk with someone holding an umbrella over her head and escort her under the outside tent that they were holding the ceremony in. Now, I don't know about you, Mike, but I don't have personal experience, but heels and metal stairs
Yep.
and rain
Yep.
are not a good combination. And so needless to say, that bride slid down a couple of steps in that spiral motion.
Oh.
So that was a little awkward and embarrassing. Um, the same wedding at the ceremony, those the groom and the groomsmen partied
Yeah.
pretty hard the night before. And they managed to make it through the ceremony okay. But when it came time for the reception, that bride just had a bad day. One of the groomsmen had just kept partying and partying throughout the wedding, and was out on that dance floor and didn't feel too hot and puked all on the back of her
Oh,
wedding gown. Um, so yeah, that was probably the most awkward. And
wow. I do know of a best man who's no, he wasn't the best man. He was family related to the groom. His job was to get the groom to the wedding because the groom and his buddies enjoyed partying. They knew they were going to party a lot the night before, but his job was to get the groom to the wedding. That was his only job. He got the groom to the wedding, but the best man never made it because they got so drunk the night before.
that's too funny.
Which I love. Okay, so Connecticut School of Broadcasting, one of the things I like to do is look up distinguished alums of a university such as yours, where you got a degree from. And hopefully, this interview, if you're not already in that echelon, you will be shortly. So, two names that jumped out at Connecticut School of Broadcasting. One is Artie Lang, who used to be on Howard Stern show. Big fan of Artie
Mm.
Lang. And the other one is Rush Limbaugh. Did not know that. So, hopefully, after this interview and people watch it, that they'll say, and Kevin Blanchard, will add him to distinguished alums of Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
That'd be fantastic, right? So yeah,
Uh,
no, Connecticut School of Broadcasting, really quick. That was such a great program to attend, especially for someone who's kind of wanting to get in that media side of things, because there's no extra hoopla that goes along with it, right? This is an express, like when you're there, you're learning about radio, you're learning about television. You're not having to take any math requirements and do all that other stuff. And you're learning both sides of it. You're learning on air, you're learning behind the scenes. Um, you're getting different internships. So I did an internship doing video production for PBS out of
oh,
Charlotte
cool.
at the time, and I had to put together a travel segment for them on traveling through England and France. It was like a two episode segment. They took you through England first, and then they took you over to France, and so it was really cool. It was a good experience. I do nothing with it now other than hang out with you today.
There you go.
Yeah.
And
But
which is why I had to find Amnon to be able to do this because I have no technical skills and honestly I have no technical want to. I just
yeah,
my eyes just don't see this world that I walk into every Monday, and I'm thankful that Amnon is here. So, and for all the folks at Connecticut School of Broadcasting that did stuff that others can just watch and enjoy. So, you mentioned earlier, so one of my favorite questions to ask when I have a married guest on the show, and you had mentioned your wife earlier. Her name is Charity. You guys have two kids, which we'll get to in a minute. But how did you two actually meet, and do you both tell the story the same way?
I think my wife avoids telling the story at all, um, because it is not the typical way people would meet. I shouldn't say it's not typical. I'm sure there's plenty of people who've met similarly, but the details of the story of which we met are not flattering. So uh, when we met, um, I was going through my separation at the time. And I was kind of in a dark place. I wasn't doing too good. And a buddy of mine who I used to work with at Schwann's, um, he said, "Man, my wife, he's a good old country boy from Lexington, North Carolina, and he's all about sitting around a bonfire and having a cold beer. And his wife wanted to go dancing at the clubs in Greensboro, and that wasn't his thing. But he knew that since I was from New York, that I must know something about those things. He needed me to be his wingman, and he said, "Hey, come up to my house tomorrow. We're going to go out to dinner. or have dinner, and then we'll go out to Greensboro. And we're going to go have a great time. And my wife's bringing a friend along, and you know, so you won't be by yourself and all that other stuff. And to be perfectly honest, Mike, I had two, 5 or 6 cocktails, probably too many when we had the initial conversation. So the next day, I didn't remember having the conversation. And so he calls me up the following day, asking me where I am, and I was like, "No, at home, doing the same thing I was doing yesterday. What are you doing?" And he's like, "You're supposed to be here 2 hours ago for dinner."
Oh,
Right? And Lexington and Concord are, a good hour and a half apart from
oh
each
yeah.
other. And so, needless to say, his wife wasn't too thrilled with me, um, and neither was his wife's friend, who was ready to go out and dance and have a good time. I said, "Well, I'm not going to make it up there. There's no way I could drive an hour and a half." And so they wound up driving an hour and a half down to Concord. And the first time my wife met me, I was sobering up and freshly out of the shower. I literally answered the door in only a towel and just said, "Hey, come on in." And, apparently her standards were low at that time, because all these years later, we're still together, right? So, that was, we're getting ready to celebrate our 10-year anniversary this year. So, um, but
I can see where she either doesn't tell it or might tell it differently. So,
he doesn't tell it at all, I
okay,
promise you.
all right. Where
I
would
brag about
oh, yeah, as you should, yeah. Where
it.
yeah, because in a towel with that beard, I mean, who wouldn't fall in love with you right there, right?
Uh, I couldn't grow it in this thick back then. It grows in that.
So where and when, was the actual first date?
The actual first date was, I picked her up and we went to um Carrabba's. It was our first official date. Um and we went to one, it was up in Winston-Salem, I believe is where it was. So, because when we first started dating, before I had officially moved to Winston, and we're just kind of hanging out and getting to know each other a bit. So our first date, I went and picked her up, but I was driving from Concord up towards Lexington to
Yep.
go see her. So I hooked her, and then I tried not to let go. So
Uh, excuse me. So when did you know, "Ooh, I think there's something here"?
when she gave me her number after me answering the door and only a towel, yeah, I thought, must be something there, right?
And, will she ever admit that she knew, "Alright, I'll try to save him. I
No,
think there's something here."
no. She admits to a lot of things. She's a very open and honest person, but I don't think that's something she would ever admit.
And her parents were like, "Really? That's how you 2 met?"
Oh, her parents don't know.
Okay, good.
I can promise you that.
Good. Alright, so you have 2 kids, which one is more like mom? Which one is more like dad?
All right. So Jordan, he's the oldest. He's recently 12. He's technically my stepson, but he's mine through and through. He was very small when me and my wife started dating. Um, and he he's more like me as far as being a loudmouth, but definitely more like his mother as far as being a bit more shy and reserved. Um, no, my daughter, she's 9 going on 19, and she is every bit like me, looks like me, acts like me, but has her mother's manners, thank God.
Okay.
Uh, so she good kid, heart of gold. Uh, Loves everybody, will do anything she can for everybody. Always is. She's very empathetic, which my wife is very. Uh, as empathetic as I think I am towards people, my wife puts me to shame. She is the most empathetic person I've ever met in my life, and it's not even close. And my daughter has picked up that trait from her, and it's a very admirable trait, and one I'm very proud of. Actually, she's a good kid.
My wife and I have 2 boys, but each of my sons has a daughter now. So they thankfully got with the program. I have 3 grandkids now, and I have 2 granddaughters. They each have 1 daughter, and I'm just, tickled pink to watch that relationship grow and what it's like to have a little girl in the house. Because I knew
Yeah,
nothing
it's
other than an older sister, I have no knowledge of raising a little girl.
yeah, she is turning into a little pistol, I'll say that. She really is. But she knows she's a daddy's girl. She knows she continuously just kind of push and pry and poke, and nothing's gonna happen. She
N
knows it. I
Now
know it. Everyone knows it.
when some guy tries to get real cool or stupid with her one day, she'll call him out right there and just walk away, right?
Oh yeah.
Good,
Oh yeah.
good.
Yeah. The one thing, I don't want to get too far off topic with it, but as as a parent, it amazes me what parents, a lot of parents my age, it amazes me what they allow their kids to do and to get away with, even at 9, 10, 11, 12. Like even honestly, even the schools nowadays, it amazes me. I drop my son off at middle school and I'm seeing these young ladies get dropped off, and I look at what they're wearing and I'm like, what happened to
Amen.
dress codes?
That is the
What
dress
happened
code,
to
dude.
teaching your kids some modesty, like, and self-respect? Like, oh, it's just,
Yep.
I could spend a full episode with
Oh,
you
yeah. Yeah.
complaining about parents my age
Yep. You
because they're idiots.
you now sound like me, like the old guy on the front porch is like, what happened? When did that change? But I'm with you. I'm amazed and but I guess the clothes that we wore, I think my parents' generation probably said, "Why are those?" You remember the basketball shorts back
Oh,
in
yeah.
junior high school that the guys had to wear and stuff like that, right? So I imagine it's a generational thing, but I don't remember it like this either.
It's like, yeah, what happened to, like, it had to go to your fingertip,
Yeah,
right? Like, that
yeah,
was the thing,
yeah.
and that's
Oh, yeah.
it's crazy.
So how important is New York Rangers hockey in your house?
Say that one more time. How important is New York Rangers hockey?
In your house.
It is important enough that if we acquire a family pet, they must be named after a New York Ranger. Um, I eat, breathe, sleep the New York Rangers. I love hockey. I grew up playing hockey. I grew up going to Madison Square Garden as a kid,
Nice.
and it's more than just the house.
Yep.
When I hired my assistant manager initially here, I joked with her that that was a requirement,
Mhm.
that she be a Ranger fan. Since she wasn't a hockey fan, she had to be a Ranger fan. Then she married a Philadelphia Flyer fan, and I threatened to fire her for
Well,
it.
I
But yeah,
thankfully you brought that up because I was going to bring this up that your labor finder sign screams Steelers and Penguins in
hey,
Pittsburgh. What's up with that? Can't you change to blue and red, at least for the Wilmington area?
so that's a whole corporate thing. I'm not allowed to mess with that
Can
stuff.
you buy
Trust
the company and change the colors?
me. I wish I could. Wish I could. I wish. Yeah. Hey, I got them to actually make me recruiting cards that use UNCW colors and did that logo in
Okay.
straight yellow.
Yeah.
And so I've got some recruiting cards. So at least I get something a little more Wilmington-esque around here.
Now
Trust me.
yep.
I,
What was Charity's first night like when she watched you watch a Rangers game?
so she's a much more quiet and reserved person than I am.
She has to be. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I I would imagine she was slightly mortified. Um, because I'm not the Ranger fan that sits quietly and mumbles under my breath,
Yeah.
right? I am I won't throw things at my TV because TVs are expensive, but like, it's one of those things that if they're playing poorly, just go in the other room
Yeah.
because you're not going to enjoy yourself. I'm a
Yep.
miserable human being to be around when the Rangers are doing bad. But probably, I think I'm a good time when they're doing well. So
That is funny when kids first get, exposed to one of their parents', teams or, uh, hobbies or something like that, and they just look around like, "Wait, what is going on?" I have that with Tennessee football growing up. I raised my boys the wrong way. I'm way
Look,
better now, but I was not a good parent on Saturdays when Tennessee football was
and to the kid's point, right? My daughter, daddy's girl, pulls for the Rangers right along with me, no
good.
problem. My son
Yep,
pulls for the Hurricanes just to spite
yep.
me,
That's
just
it.
to spite me.
That's his job.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
So one day, maybe one of his he has a son, and he'll become a Florida Panthers fan, right? Or a
who knows? Yeah.
Capitals fan, yeah. Kevin, we've been putting your number on the screen here. We appreciate the time, love the story, and what you do for the community. What is something real quick, a tidbit, if somebody's looking for a job in the Wilmington area, what do they need to do other than call you?
Look, you can just show up, right?
Okay.
Our office is open. We my staff is usually here around 5:30, 6 a.m.
Yep.
We have, if you don't have computer access at home, and you know, come in, do an application. That's the first step. Just get the application done. We are e-verify compliant. So, if people aren't sure what IDs to bring, they can certainly just Google I-9 acceptable documents on their cell phone, and bring in some documentation that we're going to require. Legally, we can't say you
Yep.
have to have this and you have to have that, but the government can, and
Yep.
they do. So there's a list of items you can bring. So bring in the acceptable forms of identification. Just come in and get an application done. Start there, right? We have different opportunities that pop up all the time. We do business a variety of different ways. We offer short-term daily assignments. So if you are a college student who's looking to just make some side money when you don't have classes on particular days, or if you're working part-time somewhere and you really like it, but you need just that little bit of extra income, we do have daily opportunities that pop up, and we offer next day pay on those opportunities. So if you work on Monday, you're paid Tuesday morning.
Wow.
Uh, and we can do that via direct deposit to your bank account, which the bank takes 2 to 3 days to process. But we also work um, with a Wisely card, which is issued by ADP, where we can process that payroll and it's on that card within about 30 seconds of hitting pay. So when someone gets paid Tuesday morning, that money is actually readily available to them
Wow.
right then and there. Then, of course, we have our temp to perm and direct hire opportunities. But the only way I can help anyone is if they get in the door. I can talk to you on the phone. We can talk back and forth on Facebook. But I just redid my lobby and it's super nice and inviting. We've got computers there. I've got coffee out there. It looks more like a coffee shop in my lobby right now than anything else. My
Yeah.
wife is actually working on painting a mural out there to even
Oh,
make it that
nice.
much more inviting. So yeah, that's my wife Charity. She's a fantastic artist. So now she's just trying to figure out how she's going to sell her stuff. But she does oil on canvas and everything. And um,
Very nice. What is the address of your location?
108 North Kerr Avenue, Suite I, Wilmington 28405. It's a small little business park right near the intersection of Market and North Kerr Avenue. We are the last building on the right, and we're the only building that is a standalone business. All the other ones have multiple units in it, but this is ours, all to ourselves.
All right, folks. So we've been putting the number up here. Kevin just gave you the address to the place. If you're looking for work, like I said, part-time, daily, hourly, anything like that, give them a call because like you said earlier, Kevin, the jobs are out there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, and even for the business owners, there's something to be had there, right? I mean, having a conversation doesn't cost you anything. Even setting up a contract doesn't cost you anything, right? You're only paying for the service that I provide. So whether that's short term, plug in daily work, temp to perm, direct hire, and I've even started encouraging business owners, because turnover is so high nowadays. Send your workers that you're curious about, run them through us for 20 days, 25 days, see if they're going to be a good fit for your business culturally, and then bring them on full time. Make sure they're going to last.
All right.
So that's something else I've been discussing with a lot of business owners. But
I
I appreciate it, Mike. Thanks.
love the way you're thinking, helping small business owners. So, folks, if you're in the Wilmington area, please go find Kevin, or if you know somebody could benefit by working with him, please let him know. Kevin, enjoyed having you on the show today.
Thanks so much, Mike.
Yep, and we will see everybody next time on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.